This video is going to be another film study preview of the Lions NFC divisional matchup against the Tampa Bay Bucs, a team they've already played in the 2023 regular season. Let me explain the lead or the focus of this video here first. The Lions have generated the fifth most rushing yards in the NFL in 2023. So you may think I'm going to focus videos on the rush game. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have shared the load in terms of the carries and the output as well for much of the year. At other times, when one of them has been unavailable, the other guy's been relied upon heavily. You can see that in their rush attempts from a statistical standpoint. But the Bucs really shut down Detroit's run game back in Week 6. Conversely, Detroit also shut down Tampa Bay's run game, so you got an interesting dynamic there. From a Bucs perspective, they made it look easy while doing so. Now, Gibbs did not play in that game, number one. And number two, Montgomery left after an injury on a big screenplay midway through the second quarter. Having said that, even before Montgomery got hurt that day, the Bucs were doing a great job at stopping the run. I do think they're very good at it overall. I think they've allowed the fifth lowest number of total rushing yards in 2023. On a related point, Detroit's defense is second in that category, so they're even better. But only 100 yards separates the two defenses over the course of the 17 games. Basically, from a statistical standpoint, you've got two teams that are really good at stopping the run and not so much at stopping the pass. Now, I'm not going to assume that Detroit's run game is going to get shut down again because they were held to 40 yards on 22 carries back in Week 6. What I will do in this video is focus on the passing game and Jared Goff's favorite concepts and the multiple facets of what the Lions like to do. What was successful for Goff and the wide receivers in that first game, and how perhaps they may attack the Bucs defense that at this point has given up the third most passing yards in 2023. They've only given up 23 touchdowns while grabbing 13 interceptions. Now in that Week 6 matchup, Goff threw 44 times for 340 yards or 343 yards. He was 30 of 44, so very high completion percentage, talking about a little bit above 66%, including a big third down touchdown to Jameson Williams for 45 yards in the third quarter. That put the Lions up 17-6. On the day, Goff actually completed 6 passes of 19 yards or more to 6 different receivers. I think that's telling as well. It's not like there was just one matchup being exploited. Across the board, there were guys who got big plays. Can they repeat those numbers on Sunday? I don't know. I mean, the Bucs defense played really well against an Eagles team that's self-destructed in the last 2 months. Tampa Bay limited the Eagles offense to 276 yards and only 9 points. We know that the Bucs will be aggressive at times. We also know they've given up a lot of passing yards, and they did in the first matchup in Week 6. To me, it stands to reason that opportunities will be there for Detroit. What I want to do in this video is look at passing concepts from that Week 6 game, which was a very physical and extremely competitive contest. Like I said, that touchdown pass to Jameson Williams in the third quarter only put Detroit up 17-6. It was 10-6 at that point. The dynamic is different this week for Tampa Bay's defense, meaning last week they had to deal with Jalen Hurts, who, while battling through injury clearly in 2023, is still far more dangerous than Jared Goff in terms of extending plays or scrambling for more yards. Finally, I'll take a look at some of the key third down concepts that the Lions use and what I think is a very interesting and fun rematch that we're going to get to watch, which is Sam LaPorta against Bucs inside linebacker Lavonte David, who did a brilliant job defending LaPorta in Week 6. Now, LaPorta had some type of ankle injury coming into that game, but still have to give credit to David, who at this point is a 33-year-old inside linebacker who's leading Tampa Bay in tackles once again. He played a fantastic game in coverage that day. I actually highlighted it that ensuing week in a film study video. I think it's a swing matchup once again. Unfortunately, LaPorta's still dealing with an injury, even though he had a touchdown catch last week and 2 other catches, including one to the wide side of the field to the sideline that I think was important. And finally, we'll look at the 2 game-clinching pass concepts the Lions used to finish off the Rams, run out the clock last Sunday night in their wild card victory, because I thought at least one of those play concepts was something that Ben Johnson kind of held in his pocket to use when the Lions needed it, as, at least in my observation, it's something that could have been exploited pretty much the whole game. We'll get the film started here with one of the biggest matchups, I think, in this game, which is Sam LaPorta against Lavonte David. You can see that one of the elements of Ben Johnson's offense that he likes to do a lot is to put 12 personnel on the field, force you to keep your base defense on the field if that's the tactical decision that you've been making all game, and declare your coverage. And what I mean by declare your coverage is you have a tight end to the field and 2 receivers stacked inside. And then backside, you've got a tight end with no corner. There is no corner here. The Bucs have cowboyed this, meaning they've put both of their corners on the other side of the field with a safety. So Goff knows the coverage. In this particular matchup, LaPorta clearly wins. Great route up to the right side. You'll see another example of this same exact formation, same exact coverage and play call, and Lavonte David wins the route because he pretty much knows it. He also gets away with a hook, but played an amazing game that day. I think this will be a pivotal matchup if the Bucs against 12 personnel are going to play as much man as they seem to want to, allowing them to potentially get an extra rusher, in this case, a 5th rusher as opposed to 4. Brilliant completion by Goff, give you the end zone angle. He played extremely well last week against the Rams as well. If you're a Bucs fan and you're watching, you probably don't need to be convinced that the guy is not the same player that was criticized so much for the last couple of years prior to this year's resurgence with Detroit. He played really well in 2022 as well, and Bucs fans certainly got a chance to see it down in Tampa Bay in Week 6. A little bit of a focus on third down here. Again, you see what the Lions have done. This is 11 personnel now, all 3 receivers to one side, LaPorta backside, and David is responsible for him as the inside linebacker to that side. So it's a man coverage call. St. Brown and Goff read this differently. Goff reads that St. Brown's going to go to the outside. Instead, St. Brown breaks the route back in, and you get an incomplete pass. The heavy man, heavy pressure scheme that was the, quote, formula to dealing with Jared Goff has not been successful throughout 2023. There's been moments where it was. There's been moments where he had trouble with turnovers. That 4-game stretch where Detroit went 2-2 and was fortunate to be 2-2 in those 2 games against the Packers, the Bears, and then the Saints. In my opinion, they're past that. At least it looks like it on film. All right, another third down. This one, you could clearly say he could hit Josh Reynolds here, but when you get the end zone angle, you'll see that I think Goff is allowing the inside linebacker to move himself. 12 personnel on 3rd and 4. Who does this? I mean, I think it was Tony Romo in one of the games earlier this year talked about who runs trap, who runs the ball on 3rd and 4 or 4th and 5. I think it was against the Chargers. Well, who goes 12 personnel in the first place on 3rd and 4 in 2023? Not very many people. So this is complete to St. Brown from the top side of the screen. You got 1 tight end in the slot, LaPorta 1 backside. The inside linebackers are in their, quote, normal alignment, so you're not talking man in this situation. And St. Brown is able to bring his route in between the 2 linebackers, catching it basically near the left hash, taking a big hit from the corner on the opposite side away from trips. But St. Brown's made a steal. This is the game where David Montgomery went out with injury, so Craig Reynolds, you'll see, is in a lot more. At this point, Goff has looked over here initially, I think, to try to pull this linebacker, which he's accomplished. If he came back here and threw the ball to Reynolds, I mean, Reynolds is there. Reynolds is actually wiping his hands, preparing to get ready to catch the football. Goff lets it develop a little bit longer, though. Lets that inside linebacker start to move, and then brings it back to St. Brown. Well, he trusts St. Brown. I think he trusts all of these guys. They've got a much more talented wide receiver group than they're given credit for. All right, same matchup that we talked about earlier. Look, 12 personnel, 1 tight end up to the top side, 2 receivers stacked inside. The Bucs have, again, cowboyed the corner, and they've kept their base defense on the field, pushing the linebackers to the tight end and receiver. I think Lavonte David gets away with a little hook here, but it's smart. It's expertly done, so give him credit on that. Ends up being an incompleted pass to LaPorta on a 1st and 10. Now, out of this formation and this coverage, 2 times in Week 6, you got the same exact route by LaPorta. I would say to you that you might look for something that starts to shake to the outside and then let LaPorta try to cross his face, clear these guys out of here, try to make space available for LaPorta opposite the side that he lined up. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Credit to Levante David. Like I said, he played an amazing football game that day. Same game. This one's going to be complete to St. Brown. And they're going 12 personnel again, forcing or eliciting the base defense by the Bucs. And you get a 4-under, 4-deep coverage where both outside linebackers, edge rushers, whatever you want to call them, drop out in coverage because, again, you've got 2 tight ends on the field. So, I mean, you've seen this dynamic often in 2023. Ben Johnson going 12 personnel to throw the ball, 11 personnel to run the ball. It's not that simple. Sometimes he does it in a standard method or a conventional method. But my point is, he did this already to the Bucs. Look for some type of counters from some of these formational alignments. When you're in empty, you're certainly not going to be running the ball with Jared Goff. I wonder what the tactical decisions are that the Bucs will make against 12 personnel when they keep their base defense on the field. This is going to be the touchdown to St. Brown. I think in the second quarter, underneath, just a whale of a block by Craig Reynolds. Incredible effort, like I said. I think it was after David Montgomery got injured. It's not empty. It's 11 personnel, so the only tight end on the field is LaPorta up here. And you can see this kind of mug alignment by the Bucs, faking that they're going to bring heavy pressure. They do bring 5, so you're talking about 3 deep, 3 under alignment. Sorry, my pen won't draw. Like I said in the other video, I need an upgrade. And St. Brown's able to catch it underneath, well short of the line to gain on this 3rd and 14, and has the trust and the confidence in himself to bring it back all the way across the field. If you notice on a lot of these, Goff is getting rid of the ball quick. Or if he's not getting rid of the ball quick, he's getting through his reads early. There's another 3rd and 2, or another 3rd down, it's a 3rd and 2. And again, you got 12 personnel on the field for the Lions and base personnel defense for the Chargers. Huge gain for St. Brown. I think it's 33 yards. Let me just illustrate the tight ends where they are. Brock Wright is in the slot to the boundary. Sam LaPorta, who, when healthy, gives you that positional versatility. He can step out there and play wide receiver, and you've got 5 down or 4 down and 1 up, but a 3-4 alignment, old school 50, if you will. From the 4-3, it would be called under, whatever you want to call it. Point is, you got base defense on the field, and you got a guy like Khalil Mack not rushing the passer on 3rd and 2 and dropping out in coverage. St. Brown running into the open space because the inside linebackers have just parted like the Red Sea. And another illustration, if you ask me, of 12 personnel being used to throw the ball in a high leverage situation. In this case, 3rd and 2, like I said, against the Chargers. And the Lions needed every point in that game. All right, another 3rd down. I believe it's a 3rd and 4, but I might be wrong. No, it's another 3rd and 2. My apologies. And 11 personnel, LaPorta in at tight end. Goff, I think this shows the trust that he has, number 1. Number 2, Ben Johnson puts 3 into the boundary when he wants to and forces you to defend them. So what I mean out of 11 personnel is you've got 2 to the field, twins, and you've got nickel, corner, and then safety to that side. It's kind of a stretch to say the safety's to that side. His feet are inside of the hashes, but up to the top side, you got 1. Well, I'm numbering it wrong. 1, 2, even though it looks like -2, and then 3 is the running back. 3 to the boundary is something that Goff looks for in certain moments at a time of their choosing. Obviously, you can see he immediately looked there. And in this case, once LaPorta clears the second level, and I think this is Josh Reynolds, once he holds the corner, it works out basically like smash, throws it over the top of him before the safety can get there for 19 yards. Another 3rd down. This is 3rd and 6, I believe, against the Raiders. And this kind of sit route where LaPorta, and sometimes it's Josh Reynolds, comes from the other side of the field. This happens to be quads. When I say quads, I mean it's 4 guys up here because that is Jahmyr Gibbs. And really, I don't think he's part of the read at all. They're operating with these 3 guys, which is where Goff is looking immediately as LaPorta brings his route across the middle of the field. He's going to see this guy here and sit, number 1. Number 2, St. Brown also sits almost in like a mirrored position, and then Reynolds brings his route to the inside, which is a favorite concept of the Lions, to have stacked twins to the left or to the right and have one of the guys go vertical and bring his route in late. I'm talking about St. Brown and Reynolds here now. So Reynolds take his route above the second level and cut in, and the other guy basically operate as bait for the second level defenders. In this case, Goff doesn't throw it to either of them. He brings it to LaPorta, who sits down and gets the first down. Easy. It's one of their favorite concepts on third down. All right, this is probably one of my favorite throws of Goff's over the course of the season. Look, I was not a huge Jared Goff fan 2 years ago. I watched a lot of their film in 2022. I thought the guy's play was not being represented by what people said about him. I think that's held in 2023. There's a difficult 4-game stretch for the Lions where they went 2-2. The ship seems to be pointed in the right direction after their first playoff win, home win in a long time. This play right here, I think, tells you more about Jared Goff than all of those mistakes do. It's 11 personnel against the Saints, 12th possession. It's a 3rd and 9, less than 2 minutes left in the game. This, I believe, is the play of the game in terms of them possessing the ball, not letting the Saints get the ball back quick in what ended up being a 33-28 win. Play action fake, I'm not sure why. And St. Brown is basically clearing this thing out of there. And Reynolds made contact with Alontae Taylor first, and then underneath late. Watch the pressure that Goff has to dodge. Step up, and then take another crunching hit to his rib cage. Get this ball off. I think it's actually a little low, and Reynolds makes a smooth catch. I'll give you the end zone angle. That's Alontae Taylor, man. He's a damn good corner at this point in 2023. Of course, the Saints aren't in the playoffs, but he's an underrated guy, if you ask me. Here it is right over on this side. You guys got a frame on your left side of the screen, so perhaps you won't see some of it. I'll let it cycle through 2 times, and then we'll look at some other concepts against the Bucs and maybe take a look at the Bucs defense against the Eagles. This could be a long video. May end up having to separate it into 2 just because of time constraints on myself. So like I said, it's a 3rd and 9. I'll pause it when you see the hit that Goff takes. There's a play action fake, which I'm not sure, why anyone will go for that. But 31 is coming forward, and maybe he's on a blitz, but I suspect he's coming forward for the run, and then just says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and attack now because I'm already here. He ends up being the guy that hits Goff shoulder into rib cage. Perfect hit. Here's Reynolds running across, catches the ball. Maybe it wasn't as low as I thought. Ends up being a game-sealing completion. Some of their favorite concepts on third down, some of the ways that they like to counter the coverages that other teams are playing. I think this pass game can get things done if the Bucs are able to shut down the run game once again. I'm going to talk about some of the young guys that the Lions have that have made an impact either sporadically on big plays like this Jameson Williams touchdown that I mentioned earlier against the Bucs in Week 6, or in the case of Sam LaPorta, consistent, heavy reliability and usage on a weekly basis until obviously he got hurt in the regular season finale. Jameson Williams, I think early in the season, his route structure was focused on deep routes. I understand it. He's one of the fastest guys in the league, number one. Number two, he made a significant number of plays in college that made it tempting to utilize him on those routes and those routes solely. I like what they've done, whereas they have brought his routes into intermediate or close routes at certain points to integrate him more. They've got a lot of talent. Besides St. Brown and LaPorta, Josh Reynolds, you saw the impact he had last week against the Rams, his former team. Khalif Raymond is a big play guy who's been in the NFL for a number of years, made big plays against my Ravens team in 2019. Adding Jameson Williams to the mix in the draft last year hasn't panned out in terms of total impact, but you've had moments like this where he shows you the potential. And I think with the amount of man that the Bucs are going to play, Jameson Williams is a guy who can win and win cleanly if Goff is able to connect with him deep. Significant number of film here about LaPorta, because I think if he's healthy, the type of talent that he brings to the equation is unusual and notable. This is a catch against contact. Against, I think it's Kobe Bryant for the Seahawks on a 3rd and 12 in the fourth quarter. Goff has been really good in some of these late game situations. This happens to be a fourth quarter, not late in the game in terms of 2 or 3 or 4 minutes left. But I think it illustrates what he's capable of doing against contact, because Levante David is going to be physical. That was what he brought to the table in terms of that matchup in Week 6, was being more physical with LaPorta Now, is LaPorta's knee going to be stable enough, allow him to explode off of it such that he'll be able to win versus David? I don't know that. I mean, in week 6, David made it extremely difficult on him. I think he had 5 catches on 11 targets. It was a less efficient targets to catch percentage than you're used to or accustomed to with LaPorta, because when he's healthy, he makes an impact no matter who's guarding him. Again, positional versatility. This is third possession of the game, over the middle, catch and run against the Saints, a game where he was operating in the middle of the field, and that's an area of the field that I suggest the Bucs have got to defend better, and that perhaps LaPorta and or St. Brown can go to and find space for Jared Goff against some of these man concepts. This is late second quarter, 3rd and 5 against man defense, and LaPorta's bringing this route back into the middle of the field. Goff finds him wide open. These guys have a connection, and not only do they have a connection when things are going good, they have a connection, if you ask me, when the times are tough, meaning it's late in the game and you're trying to close things out. Remember that catch that I showed you by Josh Reynolds to close out the game against the Saints? 3 plays earlier, you had this catch by LaPorta with a little less than, I think, 3 minutes left on a 3rd and 7. He's in the slot to trips. He's not isolated backside. They have St. Brown back there now. And again, against man, they're closing off St. Brown. I think that's Tyrann Mathieu dealing with him, so they ran a complementary concept with LaPorta over the top of that to clear that space. Goff throws it onto it. With the amount of weapons they have, Goff and Ben Johnson kind of have their choice of who to go to when the Bucs want to play man-to-man and kind of give away their coverage pre-snap like you see here. This is against Green Bay. 3rd and 5. Big gain over the middle by LaPorta, I think for 35 yards. Against a DB who's grabbing him a little bit, and you can see that's a tough catch, contested there. The DB's hand is in the middle of his body, and LaPorta's not just able to make the catch and keep going, but just shed that tackler. It's a brilliant draft by the Lions, and if this guy's healthy, he's an X factor that I'm not sure the Bucs can match up with, unless Levante David just turns in another brilliant day in coverage, which is entirely possible. I'd like to see a healthy version of LaPorta show up. Okay, so let me focus on the 2 pass plays that finished off the Rams, and we'll see if these 2 plays get me copyright claimed here. So 4th quarter, after the defense has forced a stop, clinging to a 24-23 lead, 1st and 10 from their own 17-yard line, a little same side run to David Montgomery for 3 yards. Notice the formation. You got tight end, receiver, and running back, 3 to the boundary, just like I talked about earlier in the video. 2 to the field. You've got the nickel defender, corner, and the safety to the field, 3 over 2. So to the boundary, run the football on the 1st down, get 3 yards. Very next play, they're trying to run out the clock. You would think that they're going to run the football, keep the clock going. Similar formation, except now the receiver's off the line, the tight end's on. But you got 3 to the boundary again. Same look by the Rams, 3 over 2 to the field. So what they go to, pass concept to the boundary. The only guy who can match up there, since they're blitzing the inside linebacker, is one of their edge defenders, outside linebackers, number 97. Complete mismatch in that space. 97 is a good player, man. When they played the Ravens, he surprised me with some of the plays he was able to make. And I thought he played well against the Lions last Sunday night. But in this situation, I guess you could actually say that you could get the ball to Reynolds here. But Goff has already released the football as the outside linebacker has cleared. And then Reynolds, the awareness and training, coaching, if you will. It's a snag concept. So you don't have the football. Your eyes are looking at the quarterback potentially to catch it. So you see the little brown leather football thrown. Go block. Don't just stand around. Don't buy a ticket. That's not acceptable in Detroit in this day and age. So Reynolds is blocking and helping to ensure that Montgomery picks up the 1st down. That was with 3:20 left, 3:25. I thought that was huge. One run play later, is the game-ending, game-sealing completion to St. Brown. I think this one is equally brilliant because the 5-1 that the Rams were playing, meaning there's one inside linebacker, necessitates that the only guy who can deal with quick game stuff out there is either the boundary side corner or the boundary side outside linebacker. They're not going to line up the Mike linebacker, 53, over here. Now they're going to be out leveraged to the field. When the back switched sides, he got on the midline, meaning he's in a direct line with the center and the quarterback, give or take, a couple of inches. He's actually on a blitz as well, which doesn't impact the play from a coverage standpoint to the boundary, but my point holds. 97 is the guy who I think could have been targeted more by running backs into the boundary, and I think Ben Johnson saved that concept until later on when they absolutely needed it, and 3.5 minutes left in the game on a 2nd 7 appeared to be such. So the play to win the game, 2nd and 9 after a 1-yard run, 2 minutes left, St. Brown against man defense. There's nothing here in terms of technicality, route manipulation, or anything. The inside linebacker is focused on the boundary side guy. So you've got man here, man there. I don't think the boundary side inside linebacker is man on that number 2 receiver. I think this guy released him to the Mike, and there's just all this space for Goff to throw it onto. If the Mike got depth, 53, if he got depth and didn't clog up this release here, then you're probably looking at an opportunity to throw the ball to Reynolds underneath versus a trailing man defender. Just brilliant stuff, if you ask me. Everything in Detroit, in my opinion, is based on reads. Everything that I see offensively is based on if-then statements. If the defender does this, then you do that. As opposed to some teams where the targets are personnel-based. Maybe the quarterback is being told by the head coach in his headset to throw the ball to a certain guy. And yes, I am mentioning the Rams again because there's such an overwhelming number of targets to Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Now, Puka Nacua played an amazing game last week. It worked out from his individual standpoint. It did not for Cooper Kupp. The Rams and Matt Stafford would have been better served with more read plays where Cooper Kupp's not open. Let me throw it to the complementary route that is available. Those things were not available because a lot of times the other receivers were being used to pick, rub, or screen to let Cooper Kupp get open in the first place. That's not Detroit's offense. Against man-to-man, they have multiple guys that can win, not just one. I think it's an interesting matchup from the pass game standpoint. I think I'm going to hold off on showing the defense of the Bucs against the Eagles until a separate video, maybe Friday night or Saturday night. You guys let me know what you think of examining the pass game concepts that the Lions go to in high leverage situations, 3rd downs, or let's win the game situations, or let's finish the game, like you saw against the Saints, the completion of Josh Reynolds, like you saw against the Rams last week, the completion to Montgomery, and then the game-sealing completion to get a home playoff win to St. Brown. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this video, this film study preview of their home game against the Bucs in the NFC divisional round, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media so other Lions fans can enjoy it as well.